Alrighty, I'm going to give you a quick run through of the InDesign Basics. So if you're not a designer, you're a photographer, or for a lot of reasons you can use this program. You can lay out some photographs really simply on a page of A4, or really quickly lay out a book or something like that through InDesign. It's pretty easy to use in terms of the basics, so let's get started. So when you first open InDesign up, you're going to have this, and you're going to have this little welcome box. If you want to create a new document, and obviously we do in this case, you can click New Document there, or we can just close this down and we can go File, New Document, and it'll give us the New Document window. On here we have things like how many pages you want to create, but you don't need to worry about that because we can always add more later. You've got the size and what it's going to be used for. In this case, I'm going to use a print document. I'm going to turn facing pages off. I'll tell you what that means later, but it's pretty obvious once I say. Page size is going to be A4, and that gives us the automatic width. So I mean, if we put letter, these will change. If we put, you know, whatever you want, these will change. But for now, we're going to use A4. We're going to use it as a portrait, and we're going to leave the columns and gutter, margins and slug and bleed as they are. If you don't see all these options, it's probably because fewer options is on. You'll only see that. There you go. So we're just going to leave that for now and go OK. And that should give us a page of A4. The black line around the edge is called the trim line, and essentially if what you were printing was on a massive sheet of paper and it was going to get chopped up, that's where the machine would trim the paper to size. So that's essentially the line that a machine would cut at, and if you just print straight onto an A4, that represents just the edge of the page. This inner kind of pinky purple line is not actually going to get printed. It's just your margin. It's like your text safe area. So if we essentially were going to put some text in here like this, I'll just make it a bit bigger. It'd definitely be okay there, but like I say, if you're going to get this trimmed from a massive roll of paper and your text was here, especially if it's very near the edge, it's possible that the machine isn't like super accurate, so this could get trimmed off. And also, if you were creating a book and you had two sheets of paper and you have it bound in the middle, you wouldn't want text here because the binding would make the page sort of bend and you wouldn't be able to read it. So your margin is a good guideline for where it's safe to put text in. Now we're using the default margin for this page, but if you wanted to change it, or if you want to add some guide columns or anything like that, it's just layout. Sorry, I'll do that again. It's just layout, margins and columns, and it brings up this box again, similar to the options that we had when we create a new document. So in here you've got top, bottom, left and right. Preview's ticked on at the moment, so you can see as I change one, they all change, and you can see the margin changing there. And if I unclick the little chain icon there, I can change them individually. So if you look at the bottom there, you can see it going up and down. In terms of columns are just ways to give us sort of guiding information. If we put it to 3, you can see 3 columns, and the gutter represents the gap between each column, this area and this area in this case. I'll just change it to, I'll change it for 3 mil, that'll do. An enable layer outlay adjustment gives us the ability to adjust this once we've said yeah, but if you've got quite a complex layout, you don't really want that enabled because you'll be dragging these by accident and you'll be doing all sorts and it'll be a pain in the arse. So go OK. I'll just introduce you to, before we add any images, I'll just introduce you to some of the other menus. So in fact I can turn these off because we're not using those right now. Just the pages pop out. It's usually on over here. This shows you how many pages we've got. Now if you wanted to add pages, you can just right click and go insert pages. You can insert a number of pages, define what master it's going to use. I'll talk about masters in a little bit, and you can tell it where you want it to insert, the start, the end of the document, before the page or after the page you've got selected. Let's just insert 4 pages. I'm going to put it after the page 1 and go OK. That's another 4 pages. The little A represents which master, and if you look up here it says A master, so they're all using this template from the A master at the moment, but like I say, I'll talk about those later. And if you look, in fact I'll talk about those now because it's quite handy. If you look this page has got the columns and everything set up, but this page hasn't. None of the others have, and it's because I set these columns up with this page selected, but they're not set up in the master. So all I'm doing to select these pages is I'm double clicking. So one click will select it, double click will move your pages to it. So if I double click on page 1, you see we've got the columns here. If I wanted to have those columns on every page that uses a master, I'll double click on the master page, and I'll do the same as we did before. Layout, margins and columns. Turn 3 columns on, turn the gutter down to there, and let's turn that to 10, and we go OK. Now what we find is all the pages have taken on this. Just so you know, none of these purple lines print. If I go to preview, I mean down here we've got a button with different modes. So normal mode shows all the guides, preview mode shows what we'll be printing, bleed and slug, and presentation you don't really need to worry about right now for this sort of basic tutorial. So just to recap, if you want to affect all pages that have with master A, then you double click the master, you do your adjustments in terms of your guides and stuff, and it applies it to everything with a master A. Now I've just duplicated master A and I've got master B. If I wanted to do some different guides in master B, again just double click, so select master B. I'll just change the layout slightly. I'm just going to change the columns. I'm going to give it, I don't know, 6 columns, leave the rest the same. Okay. Now master B isn't being used on any of these pages. But what we can do is if you select a page and right click, you can apply master to pages, and then you can select which page you want, master A, master B, or even none. So if we choose master B, we go here, yeah, there we go. It's got 6 columns. If you wanted to select more than one page at once, you click one of the pages, hold down shift, click one of the other pages, and you get the ones in between. If you wanted to select some individually, you hold control, you click one page, click another, and that's how you do it. And then if we want to apply master B to those ones, right click, apply master pages. It gives you your page numbers there. I mean, alternatively you can just play it to one page and give it the page numbers. Change to master B, okay, and some of them have got B, some of them have got A. I'm just going to select all those and apply master A again. There we go. Okay, so if you want to start adding things to your page, you go File and Place. Now this brings up a Place menu, and essentially what we're doing here is we're selecting a file, usually an image file, to place in our InDesign page. You can use JPEGs, PDFs, you can go straight from Photoshop and use PSD files, anything you want pretty much. Very, very flexible InDesign, it's great. Also, you can, if you know how to use Adobe Bridge, you can browse in Bridge and drag and drop straight onto InDesign, and it takes the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a random image. As you click the images, you can see some little thumbnails, that's the word, at the bottom. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my desktop and I'm going to have a look for something, I don't know, yeah, that'll do. Just a random digital paint I did ages ago. Okay. So, had import, in fact, I've fucked that up a little bit. I'll show you why that box has come up. So go File, Place. I'm going to find that same file again. I think it was called Dust something or other. There it is, Dust 1. Now I've got this Show Import Options there. If you import in a PDF and it's got multiple pages, you want to click Show Import Options. So what then you can do is you can import, and then you can select exactly which pages within that PDF document you want to splat down into your design. I'll show you an example of that later. For now, I'm just going to concentrate on importing this dust image. So leave that open. Now, as you can see, you can even import clipping paths, and you can set color profiles and all sorts of stuff. But for now, we're just going to leave it how it is and go OK. Now, as you can see on my mouse, I've got this little temporary thumbnail image, and that basically is asking me where to plop it down. So I'm going to click it and plop it there. This is reasonably Oh, it's not that high resolution actually. And here we have the image. Now, the blue binding box of any image is technically the crop. So if I do that down, as you can see, it's not affected the image. All it's doing is affecting what part of the image it's showing. If we double click inside here, we now get a red box, and this actually does affect the image. So as you can see, I can move this image around, and the blue box, like you can't see, you know, it crops it, and the orange box is the actual size of the image. So if we want to click the blue box again, and if you want to exit that, like you double click inside the blue box to select the image, and you just click outside and re-click the blue box, and then you get the blue one selected down. So say we've got our blue box and we size it like this, and you know, you can see the image is going off, and we double click inside it, and then we can move the image around. But say we wanted to fit this red box in proportion to our blue box. Well, we can click the blue box like this, and we can right click it with inside it, and we can go fit in, and we can go fit content proportionately. There we go. And what that'll do is it'll scale the image automatically down to try and fit it all in within its proportions into whatever crop box you've set. So if we set it this wide, we right click, fit in, fill content proportionately, and there we go. It tries to fill it proportionately. So it keeps everything scale, and it doesn't start warping around and screwing up. So say for some reason I wanted to create 3 of these images very quickly. Now I've actually imported it. I don't need to keep re-going file, place, and then getting it exactly the same size. What I can do is I can click it, then I can hold the Alt key, and I think it's the Command key on the Mac, and it gives me this little icon here. As you can see, when it mouses over, I've got like 2 sort of arrows, a black and a white one. And I'm just going to click and drag. What that actually does is automatically create me a copy. I can click and drag again, and it'll automatically create me a copy. If, for instance, I wanted to create, I don't know, 10 of them or something, what I can do is click the image. I can go edit, step and repeat, and I can get it to repeat this as many times as I want. So I can get it to repeat in rows like this. I can get it to define what offset is between them, what horizontal offset if I increase some columns. If I can give this, like, I don't know, 20mm offset, I think that should, yep, there we go. And if I haven't got preview on, you won't see anything. If I've got preview on, there you go, you can see absolutely loads of them. If I want to go OK, that's now give me like 500 million ones, and if I can click them individually and drag them about, but I'm just going to undo that. So that's a couple of ways of duplicating a box. Another good way is if you want to lay this out, you can just like plot one picture in there. Say we've got 3 different pictures we want, but all within the same bounding boxes, all on the same page. We just hold Alt and we'll just drag one down there and drag one down there. Now what we can do is, oh, didn't mean to do that. What we can do is we can go File, Place. You can actually hold down Shift and select multiple files and go Open. We get import options for all of them, but I should have turned that off, doesn't matter. Go OK. Right, so we've now got 5 objects hanging around our brush. If we hold Alt when we're over one, you can see without Alt head, it'll actually plop the object down outside a box in its own bounding box. If we hold Alt, it'll actually put the image inside the box, and it'll automatically scale it to proportion because that's what we've set. So if we had another boxes, we can keep adding, we could keep adding, and we could, you know, set all the boxes up and just keep adding in images. So I think I'll move on to text. So that's how you add basic images, and yeah. Yep, I'll move on to text. So to create the text, use the little text tool here, one with the T on. You click and drag, and this gives you a text box, as you can see. So I'm going to make a text box like this, and this acts just like the bounding box of an image to some extent. If you re-click the selection tool, you can move this text box around, you can resize it, and by resizing it won't affect the text inside it. Let's show you. I'll put some text in here. So that'll do. So essentially you've got text in here. Now if you want to edit it, you can, with the text tool selected, you can click and drag, just like Word or any other word processing program, and select it. And up at the top, on the top bar, you'll have font information. Well, I'll just put it into something like Gothic. You can have all your different weights, and this happens to have a shitload, which is pretty cool. Your size information is here, so we can put it up to 72 pixels. This is your leading. Now, what leading is the space between one line to the next. So if I reselect all of this, like this, and it's on automatic at the moment, but if I increase the leading or decrease the leading in this case to 24, as you can see, the lines overlap. If I stick it back on auto, go back to normal. You have your kerning here, which is this option, and kerning is essentially the space between each letter. So in some cases you get slightly off spacing. If you can see here, you see this V and this E, although with this font doesn't look too bad, and if I just zoom in, I'll tell you how to do that. But sometimes the V and the E might look like there's too much space, so essentially you want to reduce that space. Now you can see there it's got -18, so it's automatically kerned for me. But if I turn that to 0, that's actually how the font would normally look like. You can see that there's a little bit more space between that and, say, the V and the 0 here. So you can do that manually. If you hold Alt and use one of the direction keys on the keyboard, you can actually pull it in like this, and you can keep going and going if you wanted to. And you can see the kerning value is changing. Or you can just change the kerning value like this. So I've got -10, or I can leave it optical and it'll do it automatically, so I can select the whole lot and go optical. Or you can do it by metrics. Now, optical does do a relatively good job of automatically kerning most things and for most fonts, but in some cases, depending on what font you use, it can screw up, or it can look daft, or it doesn't know what the hell it's doing. So we also have what's called tracking, which is this. Now it's similar to kerning, but in a sense you're using it to do all of the space in between all of the letters. Kerning generally references the individual space between individual letters, particularly letters like V and W, because they tend to have more space. They need to slightly overlap the letter beforehand. If we change the tracking value and we put it up to 75, as you can see, there's much more space between all of them, but yet the kerning value is still the same, and that's kind of important just to keep all the little values together. So we have, I can't remember what the hell that's called, but essentially what it does is it changes your baseline of text. A baseline of text is the line that all text sits. Now I've just dragged the guideline down there. Now as you can see, things like A's and E's and B's, anything rounded will go slightly below the baseline, but everything else just about sits on the baseline. There you go, the V, the R, the exclamation marks. For some reason, if I wanted to adjust where this sits, I can increase this or decrease it. As you can see, if I decrease it, it goes below the baseline. If I increase it, it goes above the baseline. And for if I just put a random, let's put an at, there we go. If I put a random email address in there and just scale the size down so it actually all fits on one line like this. Now, it doesn't look too bad, but often with some fonts you'll find that the at symbol looks a hell of a lot lower than the letters. Let's see if I can find a font that does it to give you an idea. There we go, that's one. Now, that's because that's much bigger, and well, it looks all right there even so, but with some fonts the at looks far lower even than G's, and they just look screwed up, and to be honest that at does look a little bit big. So one thing you can do if you want to have a nicely typographic looking email address is you can select the at, you can reduce its size slightly, and you can change its baseline so it sort of sits in the middle of the text and it just looks a bit nicer than its original baseline, which is 0. As you can see, it just looks a bit low, and it's just one trick of doing some decent typography. So in terms of the actual text box though, as you can see, if we change the text box, what it actually does is it sizes the lines to the size of your text box. It doesn't change the size of your text. That's all done by the menu at the top, or if you happen to have the character menu open, this one, you can also change everything in here. And if I'm honest, I often work from this menu rather than the top. I just find it a little bit easier, and everything's there, and yeah, you can just go whoosh through it, and it's great. So that's sort of some of the basics of text. So if you ever have a text box like this, and you see this little plus icon here, it means the text you've got in the text box is running over the bottom of the text box and you can't see it. Now if I stretch this out, it's actually not going to appear, I don't think, because yeah, the word's too wide. But if I stretch this out a bit like this, and even a bit more, I think it's because this word's really large, you can see the plus disappears. Now we can see all the text. And what will happen is, if you get down here, you can see it's got an error. And if you double click it, it brings up the little pre-flight box, and it shows you've got overset text, and that's what that's called, overset text. You kind of want to get rid of those errors before you finish your document if you can, but to be honest, in some cases, for just general print, it's not a big deal. If you're sending stuff for newspapers and all sorts and you're getting heavy into it, then it is a big deal. But to be honest, I don't think if you're doing that sort of shit, you're going to be watching this tutorial. Okay, so one last thing, just going to show you a quick and easy way to do some colour boxes. So on the menu down here, we have this little icon here. And if you hold your mouse over it, you can do ellipse, polygon, and a rectangle. But I'm just going to pull out a rectangle, and it looks like one of those boxes. But if you notice here, it's got a minus through both the outside stroke colour and the inside fill colour. If we just get our swatches, here you go, you can see the little swatch palette. If you haven't got this and you want it, if you go to Window, and it's in there somewhere. In fact, it's under colour and then swatch it. There you go. So essentially, if we want to give this box here a stroke, so a line that goes all the way around, we can give it, I don't know, a magenta stroke. And as you can see, the little things turn into magenta, and if we just, because it's so thin you can't see it, but if I just deselect that, you can see that, and that is actually a magenta. And if you want to preview that without all the guides and everything I've already put, if you right click on the little icon there, pops out this, click preview, and there we go. That's what's actually going to print this little magenta box. You can then fill it if you want to fill it. You just click the little fill, and you see how it comes to the foreground, and the stroke colour's gone slightly to the background. And again, we just select our colour, and you can see it's filled. If you do that with nothing selected, so if I go here and select black, it'll select it, and your next object will use that foreground colour, that fill colour, but it won't affect that object. You've got to have the selection tool and got to have this object selected to affect it. So as you can see, I can just change the colour. And again, exactly the same with the image boxes. Yeah, you can adjust it and change things like that. You can hold Alt and drag it, and then you get a copy of it, exactly the same, and you can keep doing that all the way. And you can also do that, where is it, edit, step and repeat, like we did with the multiple objects. There we go. Now this tutorial has already been, what, 20 minutes long? Jesus, I meant to have already been 10. I will go into some more details if people want it, including how their images link and how to edit directly in Photoshop and it automatically update in your layout in InDesign. Different ways of creating colour, gradients, feathers, or anything anyone wants really. Just ask for it in the comments. Alright, thank you.